The man suspected of killing at least 93 people in the Norway bombing and shooting rampage has appeared in a closed court in Oslo. Prosecutors say they'll ask to hold Anders Behring Breivik in detention for 8 weeks as they build their case. Breivik has reportedly already confessed to the killings, but his lawyer says he denies criminal responsibility. Europe correspondent Philip Williams reports from the Norwegian capital.
Even before Anders Behring Breivik entered the court, the final death toll was still unclear, because despite the intensive search for bodies in the waters around Atoya Island, there are still around 4 people unaccounted for, most likely shot or drowned as they tried to swim away from the carnage. More horrifying stories are emerging. Adrian Precom was shot in the shoulder. Incredibly, this grainy photo records that moment. With the bodies of his friends all around him, he pretended he too was dead, but the killing went on.
When people ran from him, he just walked after them. He didn't run. He walked slowly, approached, because he thought that you may run, but you can't hide. I will find you, I will kill you. And so he yelled that this is the day you are going to die.
The sheer savagery of the attack has shocked the nation. People gathered at church services across the country, seeking the comfort of others for the crimes of just one.
It's so awful what's happening.
I think everybody's in shock.
And this is what remains of the government building, the first target in central Oslo. This was the working heart of Norway's administration.
Yesterday we were outside the block where the Prime Minister's office is, where my office was, and to stand there and look at this empty block, open, every window blown out, and you know, I worked there only a few days ago, and now it's a crime scene. There are dead bodies inside, blood, horror.
Hans Christian Amundsen says despite losing all computers, files, everything, the government is still functioning. But as he stops and looks and reflects for the first time, as for so many, it's just too much.
I feel it hit me, it hits me. One shouldn't stop. I think that's the answer. I'm sorry. All these flowers, all these lights, it's the engagement of the Norwegian people. I'm sorry.
There are makeshift shrines across the country. People just want a place they can share the unbearable weight.
We are just 5 million people, and everybody knows each other and have some relatives and so on. So it's so shocking that one of our own citizen could do things like this.
More is being learnt of the world of Anders Behring Breivik. Smart, organised, it appears he may have leased a farm years ago that enabled him to buy tons of fertiliser, often used in bombs, without raising any suspicion. And he joined a gun club, which meant he could legitimately own weapons. Again, no trail. According to this psychologist who works with the Norwegian police, he shows all the signs of being a rare type of psychopath who can cover his tracks.
Where the person have a kind of control over his antisocial behavior. He do antisocial things, but it's not detected. So it's not many on that pathway, but it's some. And he may be one of these persons on this hidden pathway.
Police believe this 1,500-page manifesto is Breivik's work, a diatribe against Islam, railing at so-called liberal governments like his that had failed to protect against a Muslim takeover. This, he hoped, would spark a revolution and drive Muslims and immigrants from Europe.
Europe is being targeted for deliberate colonisation by Muslim states, and with coordinated efforts aimed at our Islamisation and the elimination of our freedoms. We are being subject to a foreign invasion, and aiding and abetting a foreign invasion in any way constitutes treason.
And a few prominent Australians rate a mention, including historian Keith Windschuttle.
Australian writer Keith Windschuttle, a former Marxist, is tired of that anti-Western slant that permeates academia. For the past 3 decades and more, many of the leading opinion makers in our universities, the media and the arts have regarded Western culture as, at best, something to be ashamed of, or at worst, something to be opposed.
And former Prime Minister John Howard and Sydney's Catholic Cardinal Pell are also mentioned.
And Prime Minister John Howard has repeatedly proven to be one of the most sensible leaders in the Western world. George Cardinal Pell, Archbishop of Sydney, tells of how September 11 was a wake-up call for him personally.
If Breivik is convicted, the maximum sentence is just 21 years. He could be kept longer if it's feared he was still a danger to society. Already many in Norway say they hope the court hearing will not allow a platform for the views of a man blamed for an atrocity this country will never forget. Philip Williams, Lateline.